since I want to show the video, I don't know that how the video will be, how the voice will be heard in Zoom, because normally you know that we watch the video in YouTube, so that's why I have no idea that how it's going to be like here. So I share it with you, and then you let me know that how is the audio, okay? Let me open it here first. So you see my screen. So let me know about the audio, okay? Do you hear it? How is the audio? Not clear. It's very soft. Okay, let me. I increase my volume and then I try it again, okay?
Hello, my friends. I hope that everything is fine at your end. So about today's topic.
Okay.
The last try. I don't want to say the topic first. I want to tell you some stories. And
how is it now without hands-free? You want to hear again?
I expect you to tell me the topic, because
how was it, my friends? So without hands-free, was it better? Okay, so thank you for this. At least 2, 3 hours. Only I think 3 in the class that are answering me. The rest, are you there? So without hands-free or with hands-free, which one you can hear better?
Topic is something that I'm sure.
So you hear it? Was it fine? So shall I play it? Okay. So you just listen for the first video.
You're familiar, you have learned it in previous modules. So that's why I want to know that how much you have learned it and how much you really understood the concept in the real world example. So let me start with this example that you have heard a lot of stories about the global crisis of 2008. So you have heard that the financial institutions and specifically the banking institutions, the insurance institutions have received a lot of blame for causing this global crisis to happen. So we have heard about a lot of stories that the employees and the managers of the banking institutions and the insurance companies, they took excessive risk. How they have taken the excessive risk in a way that they have totally put aside the lending practices, the requirements that previously the banking system had to give mortgages and loans to the people. They put aside that requirements and they went for excessive mortgages. So even to the borrowers that they were not eligible based on the previous criteria, this time they provided loan. So they provided mortgages without any down payment. And of course, the people that they are not able to pay the down payment for the house, it means that they are more likely to default on the loans. So what was the reason? What was the motivation for the managers to make excessive risk? Yes, it was very simple, because they were receiving a lot of bonus on that. So it means that the bonus criteria was in a way that if you bring a lot of mortgage to the bank, so you receive more bonus. So then that's why they put aside whatever criteria it has been accepted before, and they went for excessive mortgages and of course excessive risk. So what happened is that after that, a lot of people, they started defaulting on the mortgage, and then you know the rest of the story. So do they care about the time that they want to give loans to the people? Do they care about the previous economic situation? Do they think that what might happen in future? Of course not. They were just thinking about the bonus and extra payment that they will be eligible to receive. So now, After that, a Consumer Protection Act came into the picture. So we call it Clawback Act. You may have heard about it, Clawback Act. What is this clawback? The clawback is saying that the institution has the right to claw back or to claim back whatever bonus you have received before, and your action has resulted in the loss for the institution. So it means that for the time being, the institution is expecting you to bring customer for the loans. You bring a lot of customers, you're eligible to receive more bonus and you're gonna receive it. But later on, since the customer or the borrower has defaulted on the loan, so you are responsible for the loss of the organization. And they can claim back, they can claw back whatever you have received as a bonus of that action. In 1986, only 10% of 100 Fortune companies, only 10% of 100 Fortune companies, they had this clawback provision. In 2013, this number has increased to 90%. Is the story clear? Okay, I'll go for one more story. So what is the moral of the story is that the employees are taking excessive risk because they expect higher bonus. Fine, so till here we are talking about risk and bonus. Next story. Next story is that you go to a dentist and this dentist is saying that you have to cap one of your teeth. You don't know really that is it necessary for you to do the capping and how much you have to pay. Yeah, as long as the dentist knows that you have to do it, you trust your dentist and you do that. But necessarily, your tooth is not that bad that you need capping. Maybe the dentist needs extra money. Maybe the dentist wants to buy, I don't know, a flat TV. The other example is that you go and you rent a car, and once you are driving a rental car, you don't care about the car situation. So instead of driving in the highway, so maybe you take the car out of the highway and then the car will be in the risk of having the suspension problem. These kind of stories are very much, you can hear kind of these stories on your everyday normal life. Again, another famous story is about the insurance company. I think once I tell you the story of the insurance company, then gradually you're able to tell me that what is the topic. The story of the insurance company is that you go for medical insurance towards one of these famous insurance company, and you want to be insured. So it means that once you're insured, for every visit to the doctor, you don't need to pay any amount. So now that you're confident that you can visit the doctor anytime you wish, maybe psychologically we feel that, okay, I can make more visits to the doctor, I can make excessive visit to the doctor, I can go for this checkup and that checkup because you don't pay anything. So what is the topic? If you haven't got it, I can give you the last example. The last example is about a famous company. Who is familiar with this brand? Have you bought any clothes from them? Rolf? Yes, it's a very famous clothing company. What they did a few years before they went and they bought a lot of these designer jeans. And it was a huge quantity of designer jeans, and they store it in the warehouse. Of course, it's a normal practice that once you buy a large quantity of the merchandise, you have to insure them against the fire and theft. And they did the same thing. So what happened at the end is that you know that how the fashion world is working. So it means that every day something is in fashion and something else is totally out of the fashion. So the same thing happened for that jeans. So the jeans simply, they were out of the fashion and there were no demand for the large quantity of the jeans that they stored in the warehouse. So it means that the Rolf company is in a huge loss. So what did they do? Simply, they put the warehouse on the fire. So they can claim it from the insurance. So it means that they are not taking any risk, but are they doing something morally? I think having said this word, now you have understood that what is the topic. Yes, today's topic is about moral hazard. Moral hazard is available everywhere in our everyday life. We can see it every day. Now I want to bring this moral hazard a bit more practical in our life. If, for example, I'm receiving my salary every month, if instead of teaching in the class, I go and I waste the class timing, so am I doing something morally? Yes. So it means that I am doing a moral hazard. I am incurring a kind of moral hazard to my principal, to my boss. So I'm gradually leading you to another concept that is taking this moral hazard into the relationship between employee and boss. So as long as in the relationship between employee and boss, or the agent and principal, we are discussing about the moral hazard. So it means that we are talking about a very famous theory and concept, which is agency theory or agency problem, or even sometimes it is known as principal agent problem. When principal agent problem occurs, what is the reason that it is occurring? Because the possibility of having a full supervision over your agent or your employee is almost impossible. So if the situation is in a way that you are working in a place that your boss is sitting right in front of you, or your boss is very close to you, he can observe you 100%. So it means that the problem of having agency problem is almost zero, because you cannot do anything rather than focusing on your job. But normally the situation is in a way that the boss is sitting somewhere else, or the employees that they have a lot of employees that the possibility of having a full supervision in today's world is almost zero. So that's why the agency problem is available everywhere. To solve the agency problem, so a lot of contracts are coming in the picture. So it means that in order to motivate the employee and at the same time keeping the benefit of the employer, so a lot of contract has been introduced. So one by one, we want to discuss about the contracts, and we want to know that how these contracts are keeping the benefits of both sides, principal and agent. Before going to this topic, I have to explain two concepts for you that we're going to use during this topic. The first concept is about efficiency in production. Efficiency in production, it means that the payout or the salary or the profit of the both sides should be maximum. So it means that it is the situation that if the situation is efficient in production, it means that both sides, they are working very efficiently, and the payment or the payoff of both sides is at max, the joint payoff. So it means that if I want to increase the payoff on one side, the other side payoff will decrease. So in the efficiency, it means that the joint payoff of both sides is a max. Another concept is efficiency in risk bearing. Efficiency in risk bearing, it means that we have two sides, right? We have agent and we have principal. Of course, agent normally is less risk taker. Why? Because we are the agent, so we used to work and we don't like to take excessive risk. How about for the principal? Principal is the person who normally owns a business, who runs a business. So it means that by nature, they are more risk taker. Efficiency in risk taking, in bearing the risk, means that the person who is more risk taker bears more risk compared to the person who is risk averse. So the risk averse person doesn't like to take any risk, he doesn't take or she doesn't take any risk. the risk lover person or the more risk taker person, so has to bear more risk. Then in this situation, we are saying that we are in efficient situation in risk bearing. So we continue with one example. So I draw one example, and then with that example, we continue to have the comparison of different contracts. So stay tuned.
Okay. So today's topic is about moral hazard again. A very repetitive topic for all of you. I think in all the modules, one way or another, you have studied about it. What we are going to do today is, first of all, is from macroeconomic perspective. Second, we are showing you some contracts that the contracts are coming as a kind of, let's say, solution to solve the agency or moral hazard problem. So as just I explained, agency problem is actually extracted from moral hazard. It means that it is possible that in the relationship between agent and principal, the agent is doing something, is not doing the things morally. So that's why the contracts are introduced to reduce the moral hazard or agency problem. We want to discuss one by one the contracts, and we want to see that which contract, for example, can increase the efficiency in production. It means that the joint benefit of agent and employee, and which type of contract is going to increase the efficiency in risk. I have to explain you one more thing, that this contract or what, for example, have you heard that you want to go and do kind of, for example, promoting a product for a company, and the company normally in this situation, specifically for the promoters, normally they don't work on fixed salary. So you have heard that they say that, for example, maybe the fixed salary is very low, but they receive percentage of every sale that they do. So that's kind of contract. So the contract that I'm talking about, it means that the contract that is offered or is negotiated between the agent and the principal, that they will try to motivate both sides, and then automatically, since the agent can be motivated, automatically the moral hazard can be reduced. Or for example, have you heard about the situation that you want to, for example, have you heard about the licensing, the kind of product that you go and you get a licensing to sell some products? So once you get the licensing, how does it work? It means that you go for a famous brand or famous company, and then you pay some amount to them because you want to buy the license. So once you pay the whole sum amount to them and then you buy the license, then after that, whatever you are earning, for example, is your income. So that's again another kind of contract. It means that again, we will discuss about some kinds of contracts that it tries to motivate both sides, and then we are trying to reduce the kind of conflict between their interests, because once the interest of the agent and principal, they are conflicting, so that's why the agent normally doesn't do the work properly. So with offering this contract, we are trying to make the interest in one direction. What else? Okay, for this topic of moral hazard, normally it's a kind of lectorial. So if you remember from the beginning of the semester, I told you that for financial econ, many parts, instead of lecturing you, I need to go for lectorials. So lectorial, it means that maybe I'm introducing a new aspect of the topic for you, but I'm doing it through the example. So the same thing we are going to do with this topic. So let me share my screen with you now. Okay, so this is a slide that you can find in your times. Again, like before, you see that first it is about agency problem, principal agent problem to reduce, using contract to reduce the moral hazard, and then monitoring the moral hazard and choice of contract. We have many type of contracts, but for your module, I don't know why this semester I have tried to reduce the load. Maybe because I feel that you are not very happy with the module, and then you feel that I've read your comments. So that's why, since I felt that you don't like it or you feel it's very messy, so I try to reduce your load. And then what I did is that about the contracts that we introduced, so I reduced the number of contracts. So it means that overall, I think that I'm introducing only 2 or 3 contracts to you. That's why, again, towards the last part of the slide, I don't teach. And then, of course, you don't have any question in your exam. So we continue. And then after some parts, I haven't made them hidden, but I will tell you in the class that after some selected slides, I haven't taught you. And then, of course, I don't expect you to know. So you don't need to study them. So we have discussed about this principal agent. Now we want to start with our example. So the example that we are using is an ice cream shop. And for our example, Paul is the principal and Annie is our agent. And they want to have the ice cream shop. So we want to have a comparison between 2 conditions. The first condition is the full observation or supervision for the shop. It means that the principal is available in the shop and just principal needs to hire somebody, that they hire Annie. And this is the information that we have about the shop. It means that we know that, of course, for the ice cream, the demand throughout the year is not the same. So that's why you can see that we have low demand, we have low season and high season, and at the same time, we know that the principal. So it means that it's up to us that whether we want to put normal effort or we want to put extra effort. So all this normal and extra effort, it depends on our compensation. It depends on the salary, on the benefit that we are taking. So that's why we want to discuss all these scenarios. So again, before that, we have discussed about the efficiency. So efficiency in contract it means that it's an agreement in which neither party can be made better off without harming. So this efficiency in contract is exactly our Pareto efficiency. So it means that the situation that all at the best utility. We cannot increase one utility. It means that we cannot, for example, increase the agent utility without sacrificing the principal utility. And efficiency in production, it means that the payoff or the compensation for both sides, agent and principal, has to be the max. And efficiency in risk bearing, as just now we discussed, it means that the person, for example, the principal, who is the risk neutral or risk taker, has to bear more risk. So how to calculate the risk? From previous modules, we have learned it, that if we want to calculate risk, we calculate the variance. So we calculate the variance of both parties, for example, agent and principal. Then we look that if one person is risk averse, so the variance should be less. If it is less, then we say that, okay, we have efficiency in risk bearing. So now we start with the example of symmetric information. So it means that we start with a situation that Paul is exactly in the shop and has full supervision over Annie. So now we continue for our second video. Are you okay to now?
We discussed So again, let me know that whether you can hear it properly. About moral hazard, then we introduce the agency problem. And now we are looking to know that what are the solutions to solve the agency problem. Before going to our example, let me one more time emphasize the reason for having the agency problem or the moral hazard. The basic reason, the main reason behind the moral hazard is having the asymmetric information between both parties. So it means that in this situation, one party is taking advantage of having more information compared to the other party having less information through some hidden action. So it means that one party is having more information and is trying to maximize his or her own benefit and is taking advantage of this situation of having more information, is making the situation in a way that is taking more benefit. The other party who is having less information does not know what is happening. And all of this scenario is happening through a hidden action because the other party cannot have any supervision. So that's why whenever we are talking about the moral hazard, automatically the concept of asymmetric information is coming into the picture. Against the asymmetric information situation, we have the symmetric information. In the symmetric information, there is no possibility of having any hidden action. So it means that in the situation of symmetric information, we are taking a full advantage of all available resources. Having said that, in the example, we want to first, in the example, we do the symmetric information scenario, and then we prove that in the symmetric information scenario, the efficiency in production and the efficiency in risk bearing is the maximum. And then we go towards the asymmetric information scenario, we introduce different contracts, and then we compare different scenarios. That how different contracts can motivate the agent that not only she cannot do the moral hazard, but also she's motivated to put more effort. Gradually, after this topic, the concept of HR or human resource is coming. That how once you go for an interview, the HR manager with asking few questions and giving few options can understand that whether you are ready to put a high effort for the work or you want to steal from the work. Before starting, let me explain that since we want to introduce different contracts, so I use one single example. So the example is written here, and then we discuss different scenario in this one example. So the example is in that we assume that we have one principal, and the principal is looking to hiring one agent to work in an ice cream shop. For the first scenario, which is the symmetric information, we assume that the principal is available in the shop, there is full supervision situation, and then the probability of having moral hazard is almost minimum. But the only thing is that since the example is about the ice cream shop, so you know that the demand for the ice cream is not the same throughout the year. So for some seasons we have low demand, for some seasons we have high demand. So that's why if you can see here, the earning of the shop is different in low season and high season. And of course, the earning of the shop is also dependent of the high work, of the effort of the employee or agent. So if the agent is putting normal effort, of course, the earning is lower compared to the situation that the agent is putting high effort. So now let's start with our example. So in order to make it simple, for example, we assume that we have the agent called Amy, and then we have the principal called Paul. Let's say that Amy is accepting the offer letter and she is receiving 200 units as a payment. And the contract is in a way that she has to put the hard work. If she doesn't put the hard work, she'll be fired. So it means that Amy has no option rather than putting the hard work. But Amy knows that if she wants to put the hard work, so it means that she has to stay long hours in the shop, she has to sacrifice a lot of holidays or maybe gap or maybe hanging out with her friends. So that's why in this situation, there is one cost for Amy. What is the cost of the hard work for Amy? The cost of the hard work is 40 units, for example, cost of hard work. is 40 units for Amy. So how much is Amy receiving? Although Amy is receiving 200, but the real value that Amy is receiving is 200 minus 40, which is the cost of her hard work. So Amy actually in real is receiving 160. So how much Paul is earning? So now we want to calculate the earning of Paul. So Paul, you know that the earning of the Paul, it can be different because in low seasons and in high season, the earning of the shop is different. So it means that automatically, if you look at this table, this first row of the table, which is about the normal effort, is out because Amy cannot put normal effort. If she puts normal effort, she will be fired. So that's why Amy has to put high effort. So in low seasons, in low demand seasons, so how much will be the earning of the Paul? So in low season, it is 300 minus how much? This is the earning of the shop. And Paul has to pay 200 to Amy. So that's why the earning in low season is only 100. How about in high?
I stopped to add one explanation here. We want to calculate Paul earning. So that's why although the real earning of Amy is 116, but we cannot here make the earning of the Paul minus 116 because Paul is paying 200. But the value of 200 is 160 for Amy, but it doesn't mean that Paul is paying 160. So that's why be careful about this point. That here Paul is paying 200. You want to calculate the earning of the Paul, you have to minus the amount that he pays to Amy.
In high season, the earning is 500. And how much Paul has to pay to Amy? 200. So that's why in high season, the earning of the Paul is 300. As you can see here, once we want to calculate the earning of the Paul, first we have to pay to Amy, to the agent, and then we can know that how much Paul is receiving. So in this situation, we are saying that the
Paul is, who can say that what is the role of Paul? So does it remind you of any concept? Do you remember that in the first session we discussed about the concept between the shareholder and debt holder of the company? We say that, for example, if you are a shareholder, you have to settle the debt and then you receive your dividend. So exactly it's a similar concept here now. So Paul has to pay to Amy first, and then the leftovers are coming to Paul. So we call Paul as a, who can write for me? Starting with R. Paul is a, so between the shareholder, if we want to compare it with shareholder and debt holder, do you remember? So Paul now is a shareholder because he has to settle the debt first and then the remaining comes to Paul. So then Paul is? No opinion?
Paul is residual claimant. So it means that first has to pay to Amy, whatever is left over belongs to Paul, to principal. So in this situation, who is the residual claimant? Is Paul. So as we said, it is the symmetric information scenario and there is no risk of moral hazard. So how much at the end is the expected income of the Paul? Because the income of the Paul in various seasons is different. So that's why we have to calculate the expected payoff. So you remember the formula of calculating the expected payoff? Yes, probability of one situation multiplied by the income of that situation. We assume that the probability of both is the same. So for example, the probability is 50% for receiving 100 and then 50% for receiving 300. So how much is the expected payoff? 200. So So the expected payoff of Paul is 200. So how much is the joint payoff? Ami's payoff is 160. Expected payoff of Paul is 200. So it means that the joint payoff is 360. Principal is 200. Agent is 160. And the joint payoff is 360. Okay. Now, we want to know that whether we have the efficiency in risk bearing or not. Efficiency in risk bearing, again, I explained that it means that between Amy and Paul, the person who is risk averse has to take less risk. The person who is risk taker has to bear the risk. So in this scenario, is Amy taking any risk? Of course not, because Amy is receiving the payoff at the end of each month, and the payoff is fixed, it's 200. So that's why the risk for Amy is 0. How about for Paul? Is there any risk for Paul? And what is the reason for having the risk? Yes, Paul is taking the risk, but the risk of the Paul is not related to the effort of the Amy, because Amy is putting hard effort. So the risk of the payment or payoff of the Paul is only related to the season, that whether it is a low season or high season. So that's why we have to calculate the risk of the payoff for the Paul. Do you remember that in economics, whenever we are talking about the concept of risk, so it means that we have to calculate the variance. So in this situation, we want to calculate the variance of the payment for Paul. So do you remember the formula of variance? Yes, I'm sure that you remember. So the variance formula is that you take the probability and then you multiply by each situation payoff minus the expected payoff. Each situation payoff, the first one is 100 minus the expected payoff, which is 200. And then you put it power 2 plus. Again, the next situation. The next situation is high season. The probability of the next situation plus the pay of that situation, which is 300 minus what? The expected payoff, which is 200, and then power 2. So how much is the variance? 100. Yeah, the variance is equal to 10,000. So you can see the Amy is not taking any risk, but Paul is taking a high risk. So can we say that we have efficiency in risk bearing? Yes, we have the efficiency. So here is yes. And do we have the maximum joint payoff? Yes, because the payoff of since there is a hard work here, so it means that this is the maximum earning of the shop and both of them are receiving the max. So the joint payoff is the max. So that's why we have the efficiency in production as well. And we expected the same thing. Since the scenario is a symmetric information scenario and the Amy is putting the hard work and is not stealing anything from the work. So next example, we want to go towards the scenario that Paul or principal decides to leave the shop and he doesn't want to stay in the shop. And he leaves Amy with whatever he wants to do in the shop, but he is receiving a fixed fee as a payment. Stay tuned.
Okay, let me tell you that where are we in our slide. So far in our slide, we have just moved one slide ahead. And the reason is that we have just completed this perfect monitoring. So now we are moving to, we want to fill this table, as you can see, with different scenarios, okay? So the next scenario is the fixed wage of 100. So gradually you can see that we started from the perfect monitoring. Perfect monitoring means that we have symmetric information. And then gradually we are moving to the asymmetric information. It means that the scenario that Paul does not have a full supervision over the agent. And then we move to the first contract. The first contract is fixed wage of 100. So fixed wage of 100, we want to see that, we want to calculate all these tables. So we want to know that whether we have the efficiency in the payoff of Paul and Amy, and then we want to know that whether we have the efficiency in risk bearing. So now what is the story is that, okay, we have discussed about this fixed fee. It means that Amy in the fixed fee, who is receiving the fixed fee contract? It means that it is Amy who is receiving the fixed wage. So in fixed wage, we have two sides. In the first side, Amy can receive a fixed wage. In the second side, Paul can receive a fixed wage. So if Paul is receiving the fixed wage, it is the scenario that we call it fixed, we call it license fee. It is a license fee. It means that it's a fixed fee, but the direction of who pays who is different. If it is licensing, it is the agent who is paying the principal. If it is fixed fee right here, fixed fee contract, it means that it is Amy who is receiving. It means that it is the principal who is paying the agent. So now let's continue with our next video that we are talking about the fixed fee contract. Completed the second one. So does it mean that we have to see this?
Okay, in this situation, the principal has left the shop and has made a contract with Amy that you will receive a fixed wage of 100 and I won't be available in the shop anymore, so you should manage the shop. So what will happen? So how much Amy is putting effort? So let's see that Amy has the option, and the amount that Amy is receiving is fixed, is 100. So it means that Amy has the option of putting hard work or putting normal effort. So then if she puts hard work, she is receiving 100. Wants to put the hard effort, so it means that she's receiving only 60 units. So if she doesn't put any high effort, so it means that she puts the normal effort, she's receiving 100. So which one does it make sense for Amy when Paul is not around? Of course, this one is making sense. So can you see that gradually moral hazard is coming to the picture? Yeah, because if the Paul was available, so Amy definitely would have high effort. The Paul is there to supervise. Now that the principal is not there and Amy can see that whether she puts hard work or she doesn't put hard work, she's receiving this 100. So she knows that putting hard work has some cost for it because she has to sacrifice chit-chatting, hanging out, a lot of leisuring time. So that's why she prefers to not put any hard work. And Amy is continuing with having the normal effort in the shop. So now knowing that Amy is putting the normal effort, the Paul income is associated with this normal effort. So it means that in this situation, this row of the table is out of our picture. Amy is not putting any high effort. So that's why the earning of the Paul is what? Is based on the low demand and high demand. If it is low demand, the earning is 100, the earning of the shop is 100, and Paul has to pay 100 to Amy, so he will receive 0. If the earning of the shop, if it is high season, the earning of the shop is 300. So 300 minus 100 to Amy, So it's gonna be equal to 200. This is the earning of Paul. So who is the residual claimant in this situation? Yes, again Paul. Because Paul is first paying to Amy, whatever is the leftover he can take. So how much is the expected income or expected payoff? Expected payoff is possibility of one situation plus possibility of another situation. So the expected payoff is equal to 100. How much is the joint payoff? Is 200. So if I want to put them here, we want to compare. So the joint payoff is, here is 100 expected, and then for Amy is also 100. So the joint payoff is 200. So for Amy agent, the payoff is 100, and then for the principal, the payoff is another 100. You can see the difference here, right? So maybe I can put this right in front of this line, the line of fixed wage of 100. So one of them was 100, the other one also was 100, and then joint payment is 200. So now we want to calculate the variance. How much is the variance? Do you remember how to calculate the variance? Yes. For Amy, there is no variance, there is no risk. Whether she puts high work or less effort, normal effort, she receives the salary. So how much is the risk for Paul? Of course, again, the risk is due to low season and high season because the effort of the Amy is anyway the same. So how to calculate the variance of the payment of Paul variance? So the probability of one situation, all of the markers are making a lot of noise. Okay, the probability of one situation multiplied by the earning of one situation, which is 0 minus the expected earning, which is 100 over 2, plus the probability of other situation, the earning of the other situation, which is 200 minus the expected earning power 2. So if we want to calculate how much is the variance here, will be 0, and then so is it like this? Yes. So Amy is not taking any risk. Paul is taking again high risk. So of course, again, we have the efficiency in risk bearing. Why? Because Amy is risk averse person is not taking any risk. Paul is okay to take any risk, so that's why he's taking the high risk. So that's why while we don't have the efficiency in payoff, but we have the efficiency in risk bearing. So I can remove this here. And then we can complete the table. That do we have the efficiency in risk bearing? And the answer is yes. We want to continue to another scenario. Other scenario is again a kind of fixed fee contract, like here that it is a fixed wage. The next one is also fixed fee contract, but there is one difference. In the fixed wage contract, it is the principal who is paying to the agent, and it's a fixed amount. In the next scenario, it is agent who makes a contract with the principal and is saying that I'm paying you a fixed amount of like 200 every month, and then you let me to manage the whole shop. So this kind of scenario is called, yes, licensing contract or licensing fee. So it means that in this scenario, Paul does not intervene that how Amy is managing the shop. So Paul is receiving the fixed fee of 200 every month, which is a licensing fee, and allows Amy to manage the shop in any way that she likes. So then now we have to know, we want to investigate that how Amy can maximize her own benefit, because anyway, Amy has to pay the fee of fixed fee of 200 to Paul. So now it means that if Amy is putting more effort, she can earn more and she can maximize their own benefit.
Okay. Are you okay too so far? Are you there, my friends? The number of the participants of the class always in the middle is dropping. So we started with 36 after those two colleagues, they left. Then 35, now it is 33. So are you all okay? Absolutely. You have the videos, and even for the tutorial classes, I will record all the tutorial classes, so I will post for you. So don't worry, everything will be available for you, and then exactly the same type of things that we discuss in the class, I will ask you in the final. So just you understand this whole topic is important. Okay, now I have to show you. Okay, we wanted to discuss about license fee, right? So for the license fee, before I go for the next video, I want to show you that how will be the AMI's payment and in different scenario. I want to know that once AMI is giving the license fee of 200 to the poll, how much will be the AMI payment, how much AMI will receive. So let's calculate it together. I calculate for you, so you calculate also for yourself. So what will be the situation? So we are discussing about the situation that we want to know that how much will be AMI, how much will be AMI payment, how much is the AMI's payment after she puts 200 as a licensing fee to poll. And then of course, again, we have different scenarios. We have the scenario of low season and high season. So let's discuss that, what will happen. So this is the scenario of, okay, this is our lecture on moral hazard. Okay. And we are talking about licensing fee of 200 to principal. Okay. So let's say that if we imagine that AMI works hard. If AMI works hard. So what is this two arrow I have with here? For what AMI is working hard. So what are these options? One is low season and the other one is high season. So in low season, how much was the earning of the shop? If you remember that table, the earning of the shop in low season was 300. How much is AMI has to pay to principal? It is 200. So that's why we put 200. What else? Shall I put anything else here? I want to know that how much AMI will receive if she works hard, she puts the hard work. It is low season. The earning of the shop is 300. AMI has to pay 200 to boss and any other thing here. Who is with me? One more minus I have to put here. Who can tell me that? What is that minus? 1 mark for the assignment.
Boss hard work.
Yeah, so how much is that?
40.
40, okay. How many of you did you answer? Yes, Sharon answer. Eleanor answer cost. Eleanor, cost was not clear. Cost of hard work, if you mean. Correct. Okay, all of you, 3 marks for 1 mark for assignment, sorry. That's the hard work. 100. Okay, all of you get. So 40. For the high season, how much was the earning of the shop? Was 500. Minus how much has to pay to Paul? And then how much is the hard work? It's 40. So here it means that 100 minus 40, it means that it is 60 here, and then it is 260. After that, what should I do? After this, what is this? I have to calculate, of course, as soon as you have two options, immediately it means that you have to calculate the expected earning of, yes, really great job. Expected, for example, income, let's say, or payoff, whatever. So it means that we put 1, 2 over multiply by 16 plus 1, 2 over 260. So the final is 160. Okay. This is a scenario that Amy is putting hard work. Now, if Amy puts normal effort, again, we have low season and we have high season. So for low season, how is it? That the earning of the shop is 100. And 200 has to pay to Paul, so it is minus 100. For high season, the earning of the shop, it is 200 minus 200, 300 minus 200 to principal, and then again expected. So expected income again is 1, 2 over plus 1 to 100 and is equal to 0. Now, do you think that Amy will put hard effort or normal effort? Amy has to pay only the principal fee to boss. So, but if she wants to go for normal effort, her expected income is 0. So that's why for Amy, it makes sense to go for hard work. If you remember in the beginning of the video, I said that gradually this concept is used in HR, in the interviews that you go when you want to search for a job. You have to be very careful about the type of the questions that they ask you, because they want to know that, for example, if they say that, okay, you're going to receive a fixed salary of this amount, for example, what's your reaction? Sometimes you feel that the fixed salary for the amount of the effort that you are planning to put is not sufficient. You say, no, I want something else. I want extra, for example, bonus on some activities, because you know that you want to put effort on that activities. It is the evidence here that if this person wants to go for normal effort, it's going to be 0. So it means that it does not make any sense. It has to go for hard work. So now let's watch our next video on the licensing. So what was the final video we watched? Was it this? I think now we have to watch this. Hopefully, I don't remember.
Hello, my friends.
What is this?
Okay. In this situation,
So this.
I think it should be.
Okay, to calculate. Ami's variance of payoff. Variance. This is for Ami, right? Because for Paul, we know that there will be no variance. So again, we have two scenarios because we have normal effort. I would.
My friends, what just now I showed you and we did together is here in this part, okay? So we calculate the payoff and then now we want to calculate the variance.
And we have extra effort, okay? So let's calculate. For the first scenario, we want to calculate the variance. It is the probability over the first situation, the income is minus 100 and then the expected is 0, so that's why I don't put it. Then again, the second situation and the earning of the high situation is 100 there. So that's why it's gonna be the variance, it's gonna be equal to 10,000. How about for the extra effort? Extra effort is this scenario. So again, we calculate, and let's see, for example, we put 1/2. And the first scenario is the payment is equal to 60 minus 160, which is the expected income. Okay, sorry, all of them, they have power 2. Plus 1/2 of, how much is the second scenario? 260 minus, here, I put 260 minus 160. And then all of them, they have power 2. So here it will be 100, and then it will be 100 as well, and power 2 exactly will be equal. It's 10,000. So in both scenario, the risk is 10,000. So now, instead of Ami, you want to decide. So Ami wants to know that whether she has to put the normal effort and she has to put the extra effort. So you just help her. In both scenario, the risk of the payoff is the same. But in the first scenario, the payoff is 0. But in the second scenario, the payoff is 160. So of course, Ami has no option rather than putting the extra effort to earn 160. So it means that if you want to complete the table here again, whole payment will be 200. I'm sorry, this is agent. Ami's payment is 160. Here is 160. Paul is 200, and the join is 360. So again, in terms of the efficiency in payoff, we are reaching to symmetric information. So gradually you see that with a fixed contract, the joint payment was not maximum, but yes, efficiency in risk bearing was there. In the second contract, the joint payment is again back to maximum. But how about efficiency in risk bearing? Who is bearing the risk? Of course, Ami is bearing this 10,000 risk. So that's why, do we have the efficiency in risk bearing? In this scenario, we don't have. So it means that if, as a principal, you want to motivate your employer to work, this licensing fee is very good motivation. But do remember that you have motivated your employee, but as a principal, you are not receiving anything. The joint payoff is the maximum, and you are receiving your fixed amount. So it means that the hard work that the agent is putting is only to maximize her own benefit. So we continue to the next contract.
Okay, my friends, we have one more contract, but since it is 11:50, maybe I can check that how much is the duration of the video, then I tell you that I can play it or not. Let me see. The duration of the video is 6 minutes. So do you want to see the last one? right? We can play the last one and then the recording will be complete. At least you have these all videos together if you want to watch them back, right? So do you agree that we watch the last video? The last video is about a state contingent contract. A state contingent, you know that a state means situation, right? So it means that situation, it means that you make, contingent means dependent, right? So it means that you make the situation dependent on something. So it means that instead of giving a fixed payment, you make it like dependent on something. That if you have heard that, let's make the way that if you do something, I give 20% of the I give 20% of the sale. I give 30% of sell if you make any promotion or any selling for any company. That is state contingent. So let's watch the last video, then I can discuss the detail in the next class. I forgot to share my screen.
Contract that we want to discuss is a state contingent contract. A state contingent contract is a kind of contract that it is dependent on the state of the nature. A state of the nature is actually the nature of any business, because every business has different nature. For example, in our example, which is the ice cream shop business, the nature of the business is dependent on the season. So that's why we have high season and we have low season. So in this kind of contract, we put the contract in a way that it is contingent, it is conditional according to the state of the business or the nature of the business. So it means that in this particular example, so it means that unlike the previous scenario, that the principal was receiving a fixed amount as a licensing fee, in this scenario, the licensing fee is contingent on the nature of the business. So it means that if it is low and high season, the different payment the Paul will be receiving. So now we want to calculate, of course, the payoff of Amy and Paul. For example, first, for example, Paul, principal. How much is the payoff? We say that if it is low season, so it's pay 100. If it is high season, it is paying 300. So automatically I calculated the expected payoff. Why? Because you know that it is very simple. If it is low season, it's 100. If it is high season, it is 300, and probability of both of them is 50%. So how much is the expected income? 150, and the 50 here is 200. So this is the expected income of Paul. How about Amy? How much is the expected income of Amy? So for Amy is motivated to put high effort or low effort. Of course, Amy is in this situation is motivated to put high effort. So if Amy wants to put high effort, how much is she earning? So let's see that Amy with high effort. how much is she earning? In the high effort situation, the earning of a shop will be 300 in low season. And if it is low season, Amy has to pay 100 to Paul. And since it is putting high effort, we have to deduct the cost of high effort as well. So how much is this? Is 2 minus, it is 160. So it is the high effort and low season. Here is low season. So if it is high season, how much is the earning of shop? It is 500. It is earning of shop. How much has to pay to Paul? It is a high season. So the earning to the Paul is 300. And then of course, since it is putting the hard effort, so we have to deduct the cost of the hard work as well. So how much will be? It is 200. It is exactly the same amount. So again, it is 160. So in both scenario, you can see. So in both scenario, Amy's earning is 160. So now let's see that what is the situation. Expected payoff of principal is 200, Amy is 160, and then she's motivated to put the hard work. So it means that the joint payoff is exactly similar to 360. How about the variance? You can see that the earning of the Amy in both situations is the same. So is there any risk for Amy in this situation? As long as she puts the hard work, there will be no risk for Amy. How about for Paul? For Paul, does it have any risk? Does it have, who has to bear the risk? Yes, there is risk for Paul, and the risk is dependent of the state of the nature. So in this situation, you can see that not only we have the efficiency in production, because the joint payment of the both of them are maximum, but also we have the efficiency in risk bearing as well. So it means that we have reached to the situation that not only we have found a solution for moral hazard, but also we have maximized the efficiency and we have utilized all the resources in the economy. So I completed the table, and you can see that the last situation is the efficient situation, because not only we have the efficiency in risk bearing, but also we have the efficiency in expected payoff, which is the efficiency in production. Hope.
Okay, one explanation I'll add here, that look at the fixed wage and licensing fee here. So you can see that in the fixed wage, we have the efficiency in risk bearing, but we don't have the efficiency in production. And then in the licensing fee, we don't have the efficiency in risk bearing, but we have the efficiency in production. So between these two, we always say that the trade-off is available, the trade-off between the risk in efficiency and the risk in production. So that's why it depends that some of the employers, they care about the production, so that's why they want to go for efficiency of the production, so they go for licensing. Some of them, for example, they prefer to have the efficiency in risk change. So that's why we say that in two scenarios, it's a trade-off. It depends on the individuals. But of course, we know that the last one is very motivating for the employees. So if you want to make them to put hard effort, at the same time, they don't take the risk. So that's why this is the best option.
You are able to evaluate different contracts, and based on the scenario or the state of nature which is given to you, you can find a solution to minimize the moral hazard problem.
Okay, I think we are done for today's lecture.